Hello, my name is Dr. Lilipiana Darensburg, and I am with WARR 1520 AM radio station, Warrenton, North Carolina. And we are helping to document this historic event by collecting stories from folks who were here today. And what I am talking about is this is a 30th celebration of the PCB landfill protests, birth of the environmental justice movement, telling our story, building our future. We have with us today Mr. Charles Lee, and he was very instrumental and a part of this historic event. And I'm going to let Mr. Lee come to us in his own way today and just let us know. I heard you talk about your part, the part that you played in this historic event. So how far do you feel that we have come today?
I think we've come a really long way, and it's kind of remarkable what kind of things have happened in 30 years. So I guess telling it from my own perspective, I had been very interested in issues of race, poverty, and environment. Going back in the 1970s, I was working for a nonprofit organization that focused on those kind of issues, and then in 1982, I heard that there was these protests in Warren County, and it kind of really surprised me. Because nobody had ever heard of a protest or around issues of the environment and civil rights. One of the things that Warren County did was to link up the issues of environment and civil rights. Some people say that environmental justice is the civil rights issue of the 21st century. In fact, Dean Schmoke, who's the dean of Howard University Law School, the former mayor of Baltimore. That's what he says. He keeps saying that the civil rights issue of the 21st century is environmental justice. But that was something that I felt was really really compelling to me. So I came down here, on that day that Dolly calls the Outside Agitators Day, and just to support and support the protests and to find out more about it. And I was, I wasn't a person that knew a whole lot about Warren County. I didn't come from Warren County. I did not. I was here because of my interest from an outsider, and so when I came here, that's when I met Dolly, I met Reverend White, I met Ben Chavis, and like I said, they were people I ended up working with. They were inspirations and mentors to me ever since, but a couple of things that I thought were really kind of stood out in my mind was the protest, of course, and the Dolly showed me last night the list of people who were arrested and the amount of bail bonds and the people that pledged to cover it. That's like pretty remarkable. So it was a. But there was one conversation that I had because the question that with people in Warren County, and that was around. Why not ship it somewhere else? And they were talking, and they heard the people here in Warren County heard that there was a hazardous waste landfill in Emile, Alabama. That's the chemical waste management's, landfill there, and so why not ship it there? That was, that was obvious.
Okay.
That was just kind of obvious thing. And so then we got into a conversation about what kind of community was there. So Emil, Alabama is in Sumter County in the Alabama Black Belt. It's the same demographics, everything, so on and so forth, you know. And I think that story really stood out in my mind because, you know, what, 12, 15 years later, when the landfill leaked and there had to be they had to figure out what to do there, the Dolly and others in Warren County said, no, we need to detoxify it because, you know, they didn't want another community to go through the same thing. So, you know, that's a pretty remarkable, and that always stood out in my mind, you know, as something. But, and that, I think, is just an example of the kind of progress that's been made at a you know, at the community level, and I think probably in many communities across the country, because but going back to then, you know, what happened in Warren County, and what came out of that was you know, there were many groups that were involved, one of which was the United Church of Christ Commission for Racial Justice. And the commission decided to start a special project looking at issues of environmental hazards and communities of color nationally. So, and they hired me to run that project. And so, and from there, you know, I mean, there was a lot of things we did then. And Ben Chavis was the director of the commission, and you know, shortly after Warren County, Congressman Fauntleroy asked for the Government Accountability Office to do a study. And the GAO did do a study that found that 3 out of the 4 hazardous waste landfills in the Southeast, EPA's Region 8, those are Region 4, 8 states, were located in majority African American counties. And so I got the idea that, you know, I mean, this is really important information, but in order for us to really make the case to put the issue on the map, we have to do a national study. And that's what led to the 1987 study called Toxic Waste and Race in the United States, which was the first national study on the demographics associated with the location of hazardous waste sites. And one of the major findings was that race was, in fact, the major factor that determined the location of hazardous waste sites. And so that, you know, was one of those things that, you know, I had never expected that. In fact, I said to someone the night before we released a study at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., that it would be 50 years before. I knew this was going to be important. I knew this was going to make an impact, but it'd probably be 50 years. You know, because, and I always said that it would be young people, you know, who, you know, were going to look at these kind of issues, who that was going to really take to this take to this issue and really start to make a difference with it. But, you know, amazingly, and I've always been amazed at this. So that was 1987. You know, we started to advocate with the government, the federal government in particular, around the findings and recommendations of that report. You know, universities started to take interest in this issue, and there was a number of conferences. In fact, the first one at the University of Michigan, and let me think. In 1992, EPA established what is now the Office of Environmental Justice. So that was what, 5 years, you know, and then in 1994, President Clinton issued this executive order on environmental justice, and and then called on all the federal agencies to address this issue. So, that's like a pretty remarkable thing.
Well, I want to say, Mr. Lee, that you led right into my second question. What do you know about this history? And you certainly have given us a ton of information that we are really thirsty for to know really what went on. So I really appreciate that. But what I want to do to put closure on this, just coming here today. And by the way, where are you coming from today?
Washington, D.C.
From Washington, D.C.
Right.
Okay, and I hope you're enjoying yourself.
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
In fact, when Dolly called me about coming, I said, "There's absolutely no way that I was going to miss this."
Okay, wonderful. We certainly thank you for coming and being a part of this historic celebration. But I want to ask, what did you learn today that, with all the years that have passed, and listening to the other guests, what did you learn today? And even looking out in the audience and seeing people, and even some young people, we're here to participate, to learn about what went on in this historic county here.
I would say two things. One is that, there was a spirit in Warren County back in 1982 that lives on today. And I think that everybody expressed it in different ways in terms of how people got together, organized. The kind of it was like real courage to stand up and to resist, but not just to resist, but to build on. And so what happened after that in terms of the political empowerment that took place, all of that, right? But it was that spirit that was there I think that we don't, we need to see more of, so I think, there are hard times, these are hard issues, and sometimes we don't make as much progress as we want to. But I think, if we always stay in touch with the communities and the spirit in those communities, then I think, that's one of the things that I learned. And the other thing I think I learned is that there were so many young people, as was, observed by others in the audience. And, the that's the future for this issue, and many other issues associated with it. And, issues of social justice and the environment, particularly affect poor people, communities of color, but they all are all-encompassing. They relate, issues of the environment relate to, clean air, clean water. It also relates to how we want to develop our communities. And so it's not just economic development, but it's also economic development that's sustainable, that is wholesome, that produces health, conditions, that is equitable. All these things that we have that's not just that we have an opportunity, because I think we do have the opportunity, but that there's no way that there's a challenge and a demand that we get it right. Because, I think if we look at the kind of environmental challenges that face not just, a single community, but all communities all together, and it's very much interrelated. They have there's a possibility that there's going to overwhelm all of us. And so these are, and they're interrelated. And so, young people, it's really important that they look to this and provide the kind of leadership and knowledge and expertise, to try to solve these. So, I think those are the two things, that the fact that there's the spirit and that there are so many young people that looking to the future is the most important things I think I got out of today.
I want to thank you so much, Mr. Lee. An outstanding interview. We've learned so much from you. And on your way back to Washington, D.C., you travel safely.
Thank
and
you.
Continue to remember us, Warren County, and the surrounding county in your prayers.
Thank you.
Thank you.